The Void Striker emerged from its quantum jump like a predator sliding out of dark waters. Its obsidian hull, etched with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in sync with the ship's heartbeat, reflected nothing but the cold light of distant stars. Captain Krostik stood on his command deck, all four arms crossed behind his back, chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the soft purple glow of the bridge lights. "Status report," he clicked, mandibles flexing with practiced authority. His crew, chosen from the deadliest species across 3 spiral arms, worked their stations with fluid precision. "Jump successful, Captain," reported Navigator Lithera, her crystalline form refracting light as she manipulated the holographic controls. "We've emerged exactly where intelligence suggested, the Exodus trade route, specifically the segment where human vessels run dark to avoid the taxed zones." Krostik's compound eyes shifted, taking in multiple information streams simultaneously. The Void Striker had earned its fearsome reputation through careful target selection and flawless execution. Their last 10 raids had yielded enough exotic materials and technology to make every crew member wealthy, but Krostik wasn't interested in wealth alone. He sought glory, the kind that made species tremble at the mere mention of his name. "Long-range sensors are picking up something interesting," announced Sensor Officer Vex, their gelatinous form rippling with excitement. "Single vessel, running minimal power signature. Registry, human designation Prometheus. Configuration?" Krostik demanded, moving closer to the main display. "Appears to be a standard Class C cargo hauler. Minimal crew complement, likely automated systems handling most functions. But..." Vex paused, their surface swirling with patterns of uncertainty. "Speak freely, officer. The power signature is unusually low, even for a human vessel trying to avoid detection. And the mass readings, they don't quite match the ship's profile." First Officer Rakath, a towering insectoid whose chitinous armor bore the scars of countless battles, stepped forward. "Could be smugglers, Captain. Humans are known to modify their ships for illegal operations." Krostik clicked in amusement. Smugglers meant valuable cargo, and valuable cargo meant glory. But something about this situation triggered ancient instincts, the kind his species evolved over millions of years of survival on their harsh homeworld. "Show me the approach vectors," he ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing the Prometheus's trajectory and possible intercept courses. The human vessel was moving slowly, almost lazily, through a region of space known for its gravitational disturbances. "Their course makes no sense," Rakath observed. "They're taking the longest possible route through this sector." "Perhaps their navigation systems are malfunctioning," suggested Lithera. "Human technology is notoriously unreliable." Krostik studied the display, all 4 hands moving in the complex patterns his species used to process complex information. The Prometheus was either crude by incompetence or... "What's the closest known human military presence?" he asked suddenly. Vex consulted their displays. "Nothing within 2 light years, Captain. The nearest patrol route is in the Centauri sector." "And our stealth systems?" "Operating at peak efficiency," reported Chief Engineer Mira X, her cybernetic implants glowing softly as she accessed the ship's systems directly through her neural interface. "We can be on them before they know we exist." Krostik made his decision. The risk indicators were unusual, but the potential reward was too great to ignore. Besides, his crew had taken down military escorts before. What threat could a single cargo hauler pose? "Plot an intercept course," he ordered. "Standard shadow approach. I want us in their blind spot when we make our move." The bridge crew acknowledged their orders with various clicks, hums, and flashes of bioluminescence. The Void Striker's engines powered up, their unique quantum signature masked by technology stolen from a dozen different species. As they closed the distance, Krostik studied the Prometheus more carefully. The vessel was ugly by any species standards, a blocky, utilitarian design typical of human engineering. Its hull was scarred from micrometeorite impacts, its paint faded from stellar radiation. Nothing about it suggested anything but a routine target. Boarding teams, prepare for deployment, Krostik announced over the ship-wide communication system. Standard containment protocols. I want control of their bridge and engineering sections within 10 minutes of breach. The responses came back quickly, 3 teams of specialized combat units, each equipped with the latest in boarding technology. They had drilled this operation countless times, perfecting their techniques against various vessel configurations. "Captain," Vex called out suddenly, their form rippling with increased agitation. "I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the target." "Explain." "They're inconsistent. The power core appears to be running at minimal capacity, but there are phantom readings suggesting much higher energy levels. Could be sensor ghosts from the gravitational disturbances in this region." Krostik felt that ancestral warning again, stronger this time. But he had built his reputation on taking calculated risks, on seeing opportunities where others saw only danger. "Maintain course," he ordered. "But have the shield generators at full power, just in case our prey has some surprises." The Void Striker closed the distance with predatory grace, its advanced propulsion systems bringing them into optimal position without alerting their target. At 5,000 kilometers, they could make out more detail through their visual sensors. The Prometheus's cargo hold seemed to be sealed with standard human locking mechanisms, its point defense turrets were clearly powered down, and its communication array was inactive. "Ready to initiate electronic warfare protocols," reported their systems warfare specialist, a synthetic being known only as Zero. "Human firewalls are typically simple to bypass." 4,000 kilometers, Lithera announced. "We'll be in optimal boarding range in 3 minutes." Krostik flexed his mandibles in anticipation. "Send the standard warning once we're in position. Let's see how they respond before we breach." The bridge fell silent as the final distance closed. This was always the most dangerous part of any raid, the moment when prey could become predator, when carefully laid plans could shatter against unexpected defenses. At 1,000 kilometers, the Void Striker's cloaking field dropped, revealing their full, terrifying presence to their target. The standard warning was transmitted, a demand for surrender in all major human languages, backed by the threat of their weapon systems coming online. The response was not what anyone expected. "Signal from the Prometheus," Zero announced, their synthetic voice carrying an unusual note of confusion. "Text only. It reads, 'Thank you for accepting our invitation.'" Before Krostik could process this strange message, multiple alarms screamed across the bridge. The Prometheus's hull was changing, panels sliding away to reveal weapon ports that no cargo vessel should possess. Its power signature suddenly spiked, and the phantom readings Vex had detected resolved into very real and very dangerous energy patterns. "Evasive action." Krostik screamed, but it was already too late. The trap had been sprung, and the hunter was about to learn what it meant to become the hunted. The last thing Krostik saw before chaos erupted was a new designation scrolling across their main display, replacing the civilian registry they'd detected earlier. Prometheus, Special Operations Vessel. Human Defense Force Black Projects Division. Project Honeypot. The bridge of the Void Striker erupted into chaos as reality shattered their expectations. The Prometheus's transformation continued, its seemingly civilian hull splitting apart like a blooming predatory flower. Weapon ports revealed themselves with mechanical precision, each housing technology that made the pirates' combat systems look primitive by comparison. "Multiple targeting locks," screamed Vex, their gelatinous form practically vibrating with alarm. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." Krostik's combat training took over. "Evasive pattern delta. Shields to maximum. Return Phi." His order was cut short as the first salvo from the Prometheus struck their shields. It wasn't the devastating barrage he expected. Instead, precise surgical strikes targeted specific systems across the Void Striker's hull. Their main engine sputtered and died, quantum drive capacitors drained to zero, and communication arrays went dark. They're not trying to destroy us, Rakath realized, mandibles clicking in growing horror. They're disabling us. A new transmission cut through their compromised communication system, this one carrying both audio and visual. The holographic display showed a human female, her dark skin contrasting sharply with a pristine white uniform bearing insignia none of them recognized. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the HDF Special Operations Vessel Prometheus. I must thank you for your punctuality, Captain Krostik. We've been waiting quite a while to meet the infamous Void Striker." Krostik's compound eyes narrowed. "You know who we are." "Oh yes," Chen smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "We've been studying your attack patterns for months. Your reputation precedes you, 15 successful raids on human vessels in the past solar year alone. Quite impressive. Of course, those were actual civilian ships." The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as more panels retracted across the Prometheus's hull, revealing not cargo holds but hangar bays. Small, sleek craft began emerging, interceptors unlike any human design they'd encountered before. "Your boarding teams are about to launch," Chen continued, almost conversationally. "I strongly suggest you recall them. What they'll find in our airlocks, well, let's just say we've prepared a special welcome." First Officer Rakath moved closer to Krostik, speaking in their native clicking language. "Captain, our shields are failing. Whatever weapons they're using, they're bypassing our defensive frequencies somehow." "Impossible," Krostik hissed. "Our shield technology was stolen from the Arcturians. No human weapons should." "Ah, the Arcturian shield matrices," Chen interrupted, making both aliens start. "Fascinating technology. We've been meaning to test our phase-shifted quantum torpedoes against them. Thank you for providing such an excellent opportunity." The implications hit Krostik like a physical blow. This hadn't been a chance encounter. Every decision, every calculation that led them to target the Prometheus had been orchestrated. They weren't the hunters, they'd never been the hunters. "Status of the boarding teams," he demanded. Zero's synthetic voice carried an unfamiliar emotion, fear. "Teams 1 and 2 are not responding. Team 3 reports, they report the airlocks are filled with some kind of non-standard atmosphere. Their environmental suits are dissolving." "Dissolving?" Rakath's exoskeleton paled. "A little cocktail we developed," Chen explained. "Harmless to human environmental systems but quite effective against the polyalloys most species use. Don't worry, it's not lethal. Just extremely unpleasant." The Prometheus's interceptors had taken up position around the Void Striker, herding them like prey. More systems across the pirate vessel were going dark, picked off with surgical precision by weapons that seemed to ignore their most advanced defenses. "What do you want?" Krostik finally asked, all four hands clenched in fury and fear. "Want?" Chen's smile widened. "Captain, you misunderstand. This isn't a negotiation. This is a demonstration. For too long, various species have viewed human space as easy pickings. You've mistaken our preference for peace as weakness. Our technological advancement as slow. Our ships as primitive." New alarms blared across the bridge as something began cutting through their hull. The sound was wrong, not the plasma torches or quantum drills they'd expected, but something that seemed to simply ignore the molecular bonds of their armor plating. "We've learned so much from studying your attacks," Chen continued. "Your tactics, your technology, your assumptions about human capabilities. And now, you're going to help us demonstrate exactly why raiding human ships is a terminally bad career choice." The cutting sounds were getting closer to the bridge. Krostik could hear fighting in the corridors, short, brutal encounters that always ended in silence. His crew was among the deadliest combat specialists in known space, yet they were being systematically neutralized by an enemy they dismissed as primitive. "Your ship specifications, tactical data, and crew information will be transmitted to every major pirate network in the sector, Chen explained. Along with detailed footage of everything that's about to happen. Consider it a learning opportunity for your colleagues. The bridge doors began to glow with an otherworldly light. Krostik drew his ceremonial blade, not that it would make any difference now. He understood, finally, that this had never been about capturing a single pirate crew. This was about sending a message. One last thing, Captain, Chen added, her expression now deadly serious. The next time you hear of a human vessel running dark in the outer sectors, remember this moment. Remember the Prometheus. Because next time, we might not be in such a merciful mood. The bridge doors dissolved, revealing figures in sleek combat armor that seemed to bend light around them. As stun weapons fired and his consciousness began to fade, Krostik's last thought was of the stories he'd dismissed, tales of how humans, when pushed, could become something terrifying. Something that turned your own assumptions into weapons against you. The last thing he heard was Chen's voice, no longer coming through communications but from somewhere in the chaos around him. Welcome aboard, Captain. Class is in session. Captain Chen strode through the captured bridge of the Void Striker, her combat boots making no sound on the alien deck plating. The pirate crew lay subdued, their various forms secured by containment fields specifically calibrated to each species' biology. Behind her, teams of human specialists were already extracting data from the ship's systems, their augmented reality displays flickering as they sifted through alien code. Status report, she commanded, watching as Krostik's unconscious form was secured for transport. Commander Marcus Riley, her second in command, materialized from behind a stealth field. All hostile forces neutralized, Captain. Minimal casualties on both sides, as per mission parameters. Their technology is interesting. Some of it's even original. Not much though, I'd bet, Chen replied, running her hand along a console edge. These pirates are scavengers. They steal technology but don't understand it. That's why they never noticed the vulnerabilities we built into those Arcturian shield matrices 6 months ago. The bridge hummed with activity as more specialized teams arrived through the melted doorway. Each wore the distinctive black uniforms of Project Honeypot, their shoulders bearing the insignia of a simple bee trapped in amber. They moved with practiced efficiency, documenting everything before beginning the systematic dismantling of the pirate vessel's command center. What about their data core? Chen asked, moving to the central holographic display where Krostik had stood so confidently just hours before. Already isolated, Riley reported. You were right about their security protocols, they relied almost entirely on stolen encryption. Once we bypassed that, everything was wide open. We've got their entire operational history, contact networks, base locations, everything. Chen nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. And the broadcast? Went out exactly as planned. Every pirate haven and black market comm buoy in 3 sectors received the full feed. The message should be quite clear: mess with human ships, deal with consequences you can't predict. A junior officer approached, her uniform bearing the distinctive patches of Xenobiology Services. Captain, preliminary analysis of the prisoner biology is complete. Their chemical submission systems are calibrated and ready for interrogation. Good, Chen replied. But let's give them time to stew first. Fear works differently across species, some need time to really process it. She turned back to Riley. How's our guest doing? Riley's lips twitched in a subtle smile. Quite cooperative, actually. Amazing how helpful pirates become when they realize everything they thought they knew about human capabilities was wrong. In the ship's secured medical bay, the Void Striker's first officer Rakath was learning exactly how thorough human intelligence gathering could be. The medical officers spoke to him in perfect clicks and whistles of his native language, knew exactly which pheromones to release to keep him calm, and demonstrated an unsettling familiarity with his species' pressure points. We've been studying your kind for years, the lead interrogator explained, her translator perfectly mimicking his language's subtle harmonics. Every raid on our ships provided more data. Every encounter taught us more about your weaknesses. Did you really think we were just helpless victims? Back on the bridge, Chen accessed the main tactical display, reviewing the battle, if it could even be called that. The Prometheus's true capabilities had barely been tested. The pirates' supposedly superior technology had been neutralized by countermeasures developed through careful study of their previous attacks. Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Send the signal to the rest of the fleet. Throughout the sector, seemingly harmless cargo vessels began to transform, revealing their true nature. The hunting grounds that pirates had considered safe and profitable were suddenly full of predators they'd never learned to fear. What about their ship? Riley asked, gesturing at the Void Striker's bridge. Chen's smile turned predatory. Strip it. Take everything useful, document everything else. Then we're going to leave it floating right here, a message to anyone else who thinks human space is easy pickings. The next few hours were a flurry of activity as the Prometheus's crews executed their orders with mechanical precision. The Void Striker was systematically dismantled, its technology catalogued, its secrets laid bare. The pirate crew, once they regained consciousness, found themselves in holding cells designed with intimate knowledge of their species' capabilities. You know what the interesting thing is? Chen said to Riley as they watched the operation unfold. They had opportunities to notice something was wrong. The power readings that didn't make sense, the course that seemed too perfect, even the way we tried to avoid detection. But they were so convinced of their superiority that they ignored every warning sign. Riley nodded. Human psychology at work. We know we're not the strongest or most advanced species out there. It makes us paranoid, makes us plan for every contingency. These pirates. He gestured at their captives. They got complacent. Started believing their own propaganda. A technician approached with a data pad. Captain, we've finished decoding their communication logs. You're going to want to see this, they weren't working alone. Chen took the pad, her eyes narrowing as she scrolled through the information. Well, looks like our little honey trap caught some bigger fish than we expected. Signal command, tell them Phase 3 can begin ahead of schedule. The Prometheus's true mission was just beginning. As the captured pirates watched in growing horror, they began to understand that they hadn't just fallen into a trap, they'd become part of humanity's larger strategy, a calculated move in a game they hadn't even known was being played. Project Honeypot's command center buzzed with activity as data streamed in from across the sector. Multiple displays showed similar scenes playing out, pirate vessels caught in carefully orchestrated traps, their superior technology rendered useless by human countermeasures they never knew existed. Admiral Hassan watched from the central platform as another red dot turned green on the tactical map. Each color change represented another successful capture, another piece falling into place in humanity's grand strategy. Report from the Prometheus, sir, his aide announced. Captain Chen's operation exceeded expectations. The Void Striker's data core contained everything we predicted and more. Hassan nodded, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays. And our prisoners? Already talking. Seems the pirates have a hierarchy we didn't know about. The independent raiders answer to larger organizations, who in turn. Report from Sector 7, a technician called out. The Artemis has sprung her trap. Hostile vessel designated Shadow Blade is completely disabled. Hassan allowed himself a small smile. For years, humanity had played the part of technological underdog, presenting themselves as easy targets while gathering intelligence on every species that tried to prey on them. Now it was time to show the galaxy why that had been a mistake. On board the Prometheus, Captain Chen was conducting her first official interrogation of Krostik. The pirate captain had been secured in a chamber specifically designed to disorient his species' sensory abilities. I have to thank you, Chen said, pacing slowly around the containment field. Your attack patterns were so predictable, it made designing this operation almost too easy. Krostik's compound eyes tracked her movement. You used us. Of course we did. Every raid you conducted taught us more about your capabilities. Every ship you thought you successfully attacked was feeding us information. Those civilian vessels you found so easy to prey on. Most of them were ours, designed to be attacked. Impossible. We successfully raided dozens of human ships. Chen's laugh was cold. Did you really think we'd let genuine civilian vessels travel unprotected through known pirate sectors? Every successful raid was carefully monitored. We let you take exactly what we wanted you to take, let you think you were seeing our full capabilities. In another section of the ship, Commander Riley was overseeing the analysis of the Voidstriker's weapons systems. What they found confirmed their theories. The pirates relied heavily on stolen technology, never fully understanding the systems they used. Look at this, a technician said, pointing to a particularly complex piece of equipment. They installed Arcturian shield matrices but never realized they were running on modified firmware. Every time they used them, they were broadcasting their location and capabilities directly to our deep space relays. Back in the interrogation chamber, Chen was enjoying watching realization dawn in Krostik's alien features. Your reputation for being the most successful raider in the Orion Arm. We helped build that. Made sure your targets were just challenging enough to boost your confidence without revealing our true capabilities. Why? Krostik demanded. Why go to such lengths? Because you were useful. Your success encouraged other pirates to follow your example, to adopt your tactics and technology. Tactics we designed you to use, technology we could control. Chen leaned closer to the containment field. You weren't hunting in human space, Captain. You were herding other predators into our net. Throughout human space, similar scenes were playing out. Ships that pirates had dismissed as easy prey revealed themselves to be highly advanced military vessels. Defense systems that shouldn't have existed activated with devastating precision. Years of carefully gathered intelligence were being put to use, and the hunters were learning what it meant to be hunted. Admiral Hassan received another update. Sir, Phase 3 is proceeding ahead of schedule. 87% of targeted pirate vessels have been neutralized. Their command structure is in chaos. And the secondary objective? Confirmed, sir. The larger organizations are responding exactly as predicted. They're consolidating their forces, gathering their most powerful ships for a counterattack. Hassan's smile grew slightly. In other words, they're doing exactly what we wanted, putting all their eggs in one basket. The Prometheus's mission had never been about capturing a single pirate vessel. It was about forcing the larger predators to reveal themselves, to abandon their hiding places and gather in strength. Strength that would soon prove meaningless against what humanity had been preparing. Launch Phase 4, Hassan ordered. Let's show them why humans don't build warships that look like warships. Throughout the sector, more vessels began to transform. Cargo haulers, mining platforms, even space stations suddenly revealed weapon systems that shouldn't have existed. The carefully maintained illusion of human technological inferiority shattered, replaced by the reality of a species that had learned to turn their perceived weaknesses into strengths. In his holding cell, Krostik finally understood. Every victory his kind had claimed against human ships had been part of a larger strategy. They hadn't been proving their superiority, they'd been teaching humans how to defeat them. Admiral Hassan stood before the assembled fleet commanders, their holographic forms projected in the Prometheus's tactical center. Behind him, a massive display showed hundreds of captured pirate vessels being systematically processed by human forces. What had begun as a simple trap had evolved into the largest anti-piracy operation in recorded history. Phase 4 is complete, Hassan announced. The last of the major pirate fleets has been neutralized. Those that weren't captured have fled to deep space, spreading the word of what happens when you underestimate humanity. Captain Chen, standing at his side, pulled up the final statistics. Total captures exceed 300 vessels. We've recovered stolen technology from 27 different species, most of which had been modified in ways that made them vulnerable to our countermeasures. More importantly, we've dismantled the entire command structure of pirate operations in human space. On the main screen, footage played from various engagements. Massive pirate dreadnoughts, brought to heel by weapons hidden in seemingly harmless human cargo containers. Advanced stealth ships, their supposedly undetectable systems tracked and neutralized by sensor arrays disguised as communication buoys. Each defeat had been carefully orchestrated to demonstrate a simple truth: humanity's greatest strength was being underestimated. In his holding cell, Krostik watched as his entire world collapsed. The interrogators had shown him everything: how human ships had allowed themselves to be raided, gathering data on pirate tactics and technology. How every successful attack had actually been a carefully controlled experiment, teaching humans exactly how their enemies thought and fought. "You know what your biggest mistake was?" Chen asked him during their final interview. "You assumed that because we didn't show our strength, we didn't have any. You never stopped to ask why a species that had survived countless wars, that had spread across hundreds of worlds, would really be so easy to prey upon." Throughout human space, the message was becoming clear. Ships that pirates had considered easy targets now traveled unmolested, their true nature known. The few remaining raiders fled at the mere sight of human vessels, never knowing which might be hiding capabilities they couldn't hope to counter. "We're releasing you," Chen told Krostik, much to his surprise. "You and a few select others. You're going to help spread the word. Tell everyone what you've learned about humanity." "And what is that?" the former pirate captain asked. Chen's smile was cold. "That we're not prey disguising ourselves as predators. We're predators who learn to disguise ourselves as prey. Every time you thought you were hunting us, we were actually hunting you." The final phase of Project Honeypot was perhaps the most elegant. Instead of maintaining a massive military presence to protect their shipping lanes, humanity had ensured that their reputation would do the work for them. The story of the Void Striker and countless other captured pirates spread through the underworld of space. Admiral Hassan addressed the fleet one final time. "For centuries, humanity has been seen as technologically inferior, easy targets for those who prey on the weak. Today, we've changed that perception. Not through brute force or superior technology, but through patience, planning, and the careful cultivation of our enemy's arrogance." The Prometheus returned to its seemingly harmless cargo hauler configuration, its weapons and advanced systems hidden once again. But now, that disguise carried a different message. Every pirate who saw it would wonder, was this truly a merchant vessel, or another trap waiting to be sprung? In the years that followed, attacks on human shipping dropped to near zero. The few desperate enough to try discovered that humanity's deception went far deeper than anyone had imagined. The galaxy learned a vital lesson: the most dangerous predator isn't the one that shows its teeth, but the one that waits patiently, watching, learning, and choosing the perfect moment to strike. As for Krostik, he did exactly what humanity expected. He spread the story of how his mighty Void Striker had been played for a fool, how every victory he'd claimed had actually been part of humanity's grand strategy. His tale became a warning, whispered in pirate havens across the galaxy: never hunt what you don't understand, and never, ever assume that humans are as primitive as they appear. The age of piracy in human space was over, ended not by superior firepower or advanced technology, but by the simple fact that humanity had turned their greatest perceived weakness, their apparent vulnerability, into their greatest strength. Admiral Hassan's final report to Earth Command contained just one line: Project Honeypot successful. The hunters have learned to fear the hive.